My name is Sherry Tice, and I'd like to welcome you all. I'm here with our committee members, Zach Brooks and John Moats. Did both of you have a chance to look at the minutes from the September, let's see, that's wrong on the agenda. Or is it? No, the September 17th meeting, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I had a chance to review. I didn't have any additions.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, the first thing on our agenda this evening is a resolution. Mrs. Burns, could you please read that for us?
A resolution authorizing the Director of Public Service to apply for financial assistance funds through the Land and Water Conservation Fund and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. We do have our Service Director, Mr. Jim Stanley, here this evening. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah, this is a resolution that allows us to apply for money for the Ted Lewis shelter, which unfortunately is no longer with us, but hopefully the grant funding goes through and it's something that we can start to rebuild next year. We are currently demolishing the old structure. I don't know if any of you have been through there, but it's almost gone. And I wanted to mention that Darby Creek Excavating is doing that at no charge to the city. So they donated their time and equipment.
That was
To do
very
that.
nice of them.
Yes, absolutely.
So, but this is asking for $300,000 in grant money towards the building of a new all-season shelter house that we have and are in process of designing currently with John Ankram's Architectural Services.
Yes, I believe you have showed our committee in the past the
Renderings,
renderings of
yeah.
what that building might look like.
right?
What was the estimate for the total of that building? Do you recall?
We have it at about 500,000.
Okay. And if I remember correctly, the Friends of Ted Lewis have raised some money to go towards that?
Yes, and they believe they have some other donors as well as the 140,000 that's available right now from funds that they have raised. So
Okay, so if we do receive this $300,000 grant, then we would be well on our way to getting this paid for.
exactly.
When would we find out about this? Is that going to be next year sometime?
Yeah, I believe it'll be early next year when they'll announce the grant awards.
Now, is this the same Land and Water Conservation Fund that we applied to for some other projects?
There's so many of them. That's actually the one we're applying to for the property acquiring. Yeah, we have a clean water grant that we're applying for purchasing property, which is through Ohio Public Works. This one I think is through Department of Natural Resources. So it just depends on
Right.
which ones we're talking about. So there's several different funds.
I think maybe Barthemus, we get some money from Barthemus from this Land and Water Conservation, or we were going to apply.
That was a
Money there.
state capital for the $750,000 grant that we
Okay.
got. Yeah, I believe that was through the state capital funds.
Okay, well, very good.
Yep.
Do you have any questions?
I don't.
Any questions from any of the other council members?
Thank you.
All right, hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion to pass it on to council two
Yep.
Tuesdays from now, the 15th, with a recommendation for passage.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mrs. Burns, would you please call the roll?
Tice,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Moats.
Yes.
Okay. That will be forwarded on to council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next thing on our agenda is we have two applicants for two positions on the Historic Review Board. So we're very honored to have you with us this evening. The zoning code states that council shall make a good faith effort to appoint persons with professional training or demonstrated interest and expertise in the fields of historic preservation, architecture, planning, history, or related disciplines. And we have two with us this evening. Have a few questions just to meet and greet you two. Our first is Mr. Christopher Burton, if you'd come up to the podium. Welcome.
Thank you.
See from your application that you actually have studied history.
I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in history.
Excellent. And you served on a county historical society?
For about a decade. This was in Auglaize County when I lived in Auglaize County. So
Excellent. Excellent. So that must have given you a lot of background knowledge and experience.
So we managed 4 different properties, or owned 4 different properties from an early 18th century log home to, I guess the newest property was maybe 1890. So, and 3 of them then were in downtown areas within the areas that would have been designated as a downtown, historic downtown area. So I served as president, so I was very involved for 2 years, but I was also always served on the buildings and grounds committee. So commissioning reports and doing maintenance, doing observational maintenance and physical maintenance ourselves was always something that was one of my roles with that committee, with that organization.
Okay, wonderful. The Historic Review Board considers applications for certificates of appropriateness to determine if a proposed change to the exterior of a building within the historic district is appropriate to the environmental, architectural, and historic character of the district. So the agendas and applications for these certificates are sent out to the board members about a week in advance of the meeting. If appointed, would you have time to go in person and look at the building for which a change is being proposed?
Yes, I would.
Okay, excellent. That's often important because it's hard to tell from photographs. There are 11 criteria listed in the code to be considered when an application is received by the Historic Review Board. If a property owner proposed a change that does not meet the criteria, would you be willing to put your personal opinion and preferences aside and choose what is best for the aesthetics of the downtown, even if the applicant is a friend or acquaintance?
Yes, I would be able to put aside my personal preference as well as any personal relationships to follow the designated criteria.
Thank you. Are there any other pieces of information you'd like to share?
Just that I for the first 21 years of my life, I lived in the one-room schoolhouse that my parents purchased and restored. So I have grown up in historic houses, and the newest home I've ever lived in was built in the 1950s. So this is I'm very accustomed to old properties and the problems and the opportunities that exist within them.
Great, thank you. What are your favorite historic properties here in Circleville?
Should have expected that you would ask me a question.
There's no right or wrong answer.
Well, I'd have to say, off the top of my head, that I would say that there are 2 properties just to the south of the courthouse here that I have always admired from, always being here in front of them for the pumpkin show, doing rides and having that as the backdrop. And then there's an old tavern stagecoach stop on East Main Street that I walk by pretty regularly. That does not have any kind of setback, but the history is just very obvious from looking at it.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Do you have any questions for Mr. Burton?
No.
Anyone else? All
No,
right.
not.
Thank you for applying.
Yes, thank you
Yes,
for applying.
Thank you.
absolutely. Appreciate your experience.
Would either of you like to make a motion to forward this application to council?
Yeah, I'll make that motion to forward this on to council with a recommendation for approval.
Okay, that can go to our council meeting this evening.
Great.
Mrs. Burns, please call the roll.
Tice,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Moats.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion carried. Our second applicant is Ms. Denise Sims Sutherland. Welcome.
Hello.
Same drill.
Okay.
You'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself
Yeah,
and
sure.
your experience?
Sure. So my name is Denise Sims Sunderland, and I work at the Historical Society. I'm the executive secretary for the society, and I work out of the Clark May House. on Union Street. So
So you have a lot of years of experience with the Historical Society here in
I've
Pickaway
worked-
County?
yeah, 7 years starting in December. I'll be there 7 years in December.
And I believe you also put on your application that you have ties to Mount Ogle as well.
Yes, my mother took care of Mary Ruth Tolbert, who owned the property. And she wasn't our real aunt, but we called her Aunt Mary, grew up down there around Mount Ogle. So my mom now is caretaker of the house, and I have a lot. She does most of it, but I do kind of swoop in every now and then, help with the events and that kind of thing.
And that's a beautiful property. If anybody has not visited Mount Ogle, I would encourage you to go down when they have an open house event.
Very nice.
Very unique.
December, the second Sunday in December, there'll be an open house, please. Yeah, so that'll look for that.
Okay. So as you heard, the Historic Review Board considers applications for certificates of appropriateness. If appointed, would you have time to go look in person at the building, which is
Yes.
under consideration?
Yes, I would.
Okay, very good. And then according to the criteria listed in the code, when an application is received, would you be able to put aside your personal opinion and preference and choose what's best for the aesthetics of the downtown, even if the applicant is a friend or acquaintance?
Yes, I would be able to do that.
Very good. What are your favorite historic properties in Circleville? And I know the Clark May House is
The
one of
Clark
them.
May House is
Spend
one
a
of
lot of
my
hours there.
Yes, that is one of my favorites. And now that I got to go second, I had a chance to think about it. But one of my favorite buildings is what we call the Jones Building on West Main Street. Dorothy Jones owned it, and she was prominent in the Historical Society. And she's done a lot of great things for the Historical Society. And but probably my very favorite is the Marfield Bank. And that's where Arts Around is. And that was the last building that was built when Circleville was squaring off the circle. And so it was built in 1848. So half of the city was already squared at that time, but it's one of my favorites. I really do enjoy that building.
And if you get a chance to go into the Arts Around Gallery and go upstairs and look out the back window, you can see the
You can see the
angle
pie.
where it was part of the pie shape in
Yeah.
the back, which is
Yeah.
pretty unique.
And one other thing is I also have grown up in older homes. We currently live on East Union Street, which was built in 1891, and it was built by George Washington Hitler. And they were very early settlers in the area. And my family, when I was in middle school, we lived in what was called the Smith House. Well, there were two Smith houses. We were on the second Smith house, and that house was torn down. And so that pretty much sparked my interest in trying to save as many buildings as we can, because as you know, we have lost significant buildings in this town. So
Once they're gone, they're gone,
they're gone, yeah.
which is a shame. So, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Any other council members, any questions? All right.
And one more thing, I'd like to invite everybody to come down to the Clark May Museum. We have just recently finished the pumpkin show room, and that's where my office is, and we have it dedicated to all things pumpkins. And we've recently done a two-story extension, so we have lots to see. And so if you guys would like to come during off hours, just let me know, and I can make an arrangement for that.
What are your normal hours? that you
Normal
open?
hours are 1 to 4, Tuesday through Saturday.
And the amount of history from Circleville and Pickaway County in that museum is phenomenal.
I'd say 95%, 98% maybe is all Pickaway County.
It's anything you ever wanted to
Yeah.
learn about is there.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
you, sir.
One other question.
Sure.
Would you say again when the open house is, Mount Ogle?
Yeah, it's the second Sunday in December. I can't remember that
That's
date.
what she said.
Yeah, but it's not, it's.
That's not right. Oh, that's a Monday.
Yeah.
The second Sunday would be the 8th.
I think that sounds
Okay.
correct.
December 8th.
And it starts at 2:00. There's a $10 charge you can pay at the door. Or you can pay in person at the museum. And we have music. We have lots to eat. And it's a really fun time.
Great.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yep.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sherry.
Okay. Would either of you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to move this on to council with a recommendation for approval.
I'll second.
All right. Mrs. Burns, please call the roll.
Tice,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Moats.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. We will look forward to hearing about that and under new business and council. All right, the third thing we have on our agenda is representative from Uptown Circleville, Mr. Richard Rhodes is with us this evening. Please join us at the microphone.
Good evening. I stand before you
Good
once
evening.
again. Some of you may not know, but I had to cycle off the board of Uptown because I've been there 6 years. But they've asked me to be an advisor to them and present a case for you. We've 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we went through this process and asked for $25,000 a year to help with an executive director. We didn't take that money until we hired an executive director the first year, which was late in the year. We didn't take any this year because we'd fired the executive director for not doing his job, pretty much. Sorry, didn't do his job properly for what we needed. So I'm requesting that we get back on for another 2 years as needed for the same 25,000. If you can squeeze more, fine, because executive directors don't come cheap and we're still looking. We will only take it when we have an executive director to use or to be able to put to work. But in the meantime, we've continued efforts to build community partnerships and assist in event coordination, such as Boogie on the Blacktop, Rock for Tots, Kidsapalooza. We've done a chocolate walk, the first Friday event series coordinated with Round Town Cruisers, Family Fun Day at Ted Lewis Park, Cookie Walk, the Mrs. Roper Pub Crawl, which was not too long ago, Halloween Fun Night, co-sponsored with the Chamber, the Christmas Parade and Santa House, co-sponsored with the Chamber and Circleville Eagles, and of course the famous 3-on-3 basketball. And I will leave with you also how we feel that each of these events impact our community so that you can have that for your records. So the request is simple. We'd like to have the funds available for the next 2 years should we have an executive director that we need to fund.
Thank you. Yeah, I pulled the ordinance. It was in September of 2022, so 2 years
Okay.
ago, about this time, you came through, and the ordinance specified that we would provide the sum of $25,000 per year for the calendar years of 2023 and 2024 to be used for the payment of a portion of the salary for the executive director of the organization and paid from the Small Business Cares funds. So if I understand correctly, you're asking us to consider amending this ordinance to read for the calendar years of 2025 and 2026?
Well, if the ordinance was for 2 years, you can either amend it and move it forward or do another one.
Well, right,
It's your
but-
choice.
Did you have something, Barry?
The easiest thing to do is have the law director draft a new resolution for the stated years requested.
Okay,
And so if to not go through committee again, because he's here tonight, presents his case,
yes,
your committee could recommend the law director's office draft the resolution and then forward it to council at the next regular meeting, because it's a pretty simple ordinance.
yes.
But again, that's after her office reviews the old one, drafts a new one. And so you can go ahead and do that tonight.
That's what I had
Yeah.
hoped to do.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Are there any other changes that would need to be made that you can see other than changing the years?
I have a question.
Yes.
Where would the funds come from? The small,
It says Small Business Cares Funds.
What
and
is
I'm-
that?
I don't know what that is. Maybe we need to find out about that.
Probably needs to come.
Yeah, so that can be cleared up through the research of the law director's auditor's office.
Yes,
And if it needs to be changed or be something more specific, it can be added then.
okay. Do either of you have any questions for Mr. Rhodes?
I don't have any questions for him. Mine was more directed at where the funds were coming from and how we were going to pay for it.
Yes. I do know that we would like to, well, I personally should speak for myself. I would like to support the work of Uptown Circleville because I think you do wonderful work. And I know that it is a ton of work to put on some of these things, like the 3-on-3 basketball tournament, for example. And so I know it would be very helpful to have an executive director who is, paid to do that work rather than putting all of that on the shoulders of the volunteers. Even though your
Thank you.
volunteers are wonderful and they do a great job.
You volunteered with the circle painting.
I
You know what it's
what I
like.
can, yes. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you like a copy of our impact study?
yes, please, if you could give this to the clerk, she can pass that on to all the council members.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that.
Do you expect to hire somebody calendar year 2024?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
25.
25. Okay.
24 is almost over.
Right.
And we're
So
still in the searching process, and
that was my question
Yeah.
being, should we make the ordinance for calendar year 2025 to 26?
yes,
rather than
that's what
20?
I had
That was,
proposed.
okay.
Yes.
and again, we didn't take 24 money because we didn't have the executive director. in
Right,
place.
right.
So we're here to watch out for you as like you're watching out for us.
Good deal. Yeah. If we can find out if that fund is still available, then yeah, I don't have any problem. Should we make the motion now or?
Yes. If you
Yeah, I'll make that
Okay.
motion.
make a motion that we
We
forward this to the law
forward this
director.
to the law director so that she
Okay.
can review the previous ordinance and send a new one to council with a recommendation for passage.
With the years 2025 and 2026.
Yes.
And then we will also consult with the auditor and find out about the source of the funding.
Yes, yes.
Just paid
Was
out of
rather
Fund
wordy.
101.
Just gonna ask a question since I came in very end. 2023, was money taken or not? Just 2024 when money was dispersed?
2023, late in the year, we took it because that's when we hired the director.
Okay,
And
So-
2024, the director was no longer with us. We didn't take any money this year.
okay. Just wanna make sure so I can clean that up legislatively. Thank you.
Did you use the 25,000, the whole money, or just portion of the funds?
No, we used it all.
Okay, in 2023, okay.
Anything else? Thank you for your time.
All right, so we have a motion, I believe, on the floor. I will second that motion. Mrs. Burns, please call the roll.
Tice,
Yes,
Brooks,
Yes.
Moats.
Yes.
thank you. That'll be forwarded to the law director and hopefully can be reviewed at the October 15th council meeting. Right. Are there any other items of new business?
No.
All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.